Maya Chin sat cross-legged on the floor of her capsule apartment in New Portland's Old Quarter, the kind of place where the building's smart systems had been hacked so many times they'd reverted to manual everything. Her neural interface blinked a soft amber at her temple as she cycled through holographic frames of Arctic foxes, their white coats luminous against blue ice. The apartment was barely 200 square feet, but she'd lined every surface with old-world artifacts, paper maps marked with hand-drawn routes, an actual film camera her grandmother had given her, postcards from 40 countries pinned to walls that couldn't project anything anymore. Her wrist device buzzed. Her mother's face materialized in miniature above her palm. Already apologetic before she'd spoken a word, "Maya, sweetheart." Linda's voice carried that careful tone she used when delivering bad news. "I need to talk to you about the wedding." Maya's hand stilled over the holographic interface. She didn't need her mother to continue. She already knew. "Vanessa called me this morning. She's been looking at the guest projections, and with Derek's family being so prominent in the social capital index, she's worried about." Linda paused, searching for diplomatic language. "She's concerned about optics." "You understand." Maya understood perfectly. Her sister was uninviting her from her own wedding because Maya's social capital score sat at 2.3, barely above baseline. Never mind that the system was designed to reward constant digital engagement, conspicuous consumption, and the kind of performative lifestyle Maya had deliberately rejected. In Vanessa's world, and in the world of the Ashford family Derek was marrying into, a low SC score meant you were either irrelevant or invisible. "She thinks I don't fit the aesthetic." Maya kept her voice flat, refusing to give her mother the satisfaction of hurt. "Don't say it like that. She just wants everything to be perfect. You know how important this is to her. Derek's family is legacy wealth, Maya. Pre-collapse money. The wedding is being broadcast on 3 premium channels. Vanessa's worried that if you show up in your..." Linda gestured vaguely at the screen, taking in Maya's visible surroundings. "In your usual style, people will ask questions. Make assumptions about our family's standing." Maya glanced down at herself. Vintage denim jacket, cotton shirt from a street market in Lagos, boots she'd had resold 4 times. She looked exactly like what she was, someone who'd chosen substance over signal, experience over exposure. "Tell Vanessa I understand." Maya reached to disconnect. "Honey, please don't be like this. She loves you. We all do. This is just about timing and presentation. Maybe after the wedding, when things settle down." Maya ended the call. She sat in the amber glow of her interface, watching the Fox photos cycle through their loop. 3 months in Svalbard. Temperatures that dropped to 40 below. No connectivity, no updates, no one tracking her location or engagement metrics. Just her, the ice, and creatures most people would only ever see through augmented reality filters. Her device buzzed again. Not her mother this time. Her agent. "Maya, have you checked your messages?" Priya's voice was pitched high with excitement. "The Wildlife Conservation Collective just announced the winners. You need to look at this. Now." Maya pulled up her message queue, which she checked maybe once a week. The subject line made her breath catch. "Congratulations, Wildlife Photographer of the Year." She opened it. Scanned the text. £15,000 prize. Exhibition at the Natural History Museum in London, the real one, not the virtual replica everyone toured through their neural interfaces. And buried in the third paragraph, a detail that made her hands shake: Nat Geo had offered her an exclusive 3-year contract worth $850,000. "Maya? Are you there? Did you see it?" "I see it. This is enormous. BBC wants an interview. Time magazine is running a feature. Your SC score is going to jump to at least 7.5, maybe higher. You're about to become very visible." Maya closed her eyes. Visible was exactly what she'd been trying to avoid. "Can we keep it quiet for a while?" "Quiet? Maya. You just won the most prestigious award in wildlife photography. The announcement is already trending in 12 countries. Quiet isn't an option." After Priya disconnected, Maya sat motionless. She'd told no one in her family about entering the competition. Why would she? They'd stopped asking about her work years ago. Once it became clear she wasn't going to monetize her social capital, wasn't going to convert her travels into a lifestyle brand, wasn't going to become whatever Instagram-adjacent thing they could brag about at dinner parties. Her older sister Vanessa was everything Maya wasn't. Corporate lawyer. SC score of 9.2. 3 million followers across platforms. Every photo curated. Every post optimized, every moment of her life packaged for maximum engagement. Her engagement to Derek Ashford had generated enough media attention to briefly trend above a minor celebrity divorce. Derek Ashford, heir to the Ashford hospitality empire, 15 five-star properties spanning 3 continents, each one a monument to tasteful excess. Maya had looked him up once, curious about the man her sister had chosen. His public profile was exactly what she'd expected, handsome in that carefully maintained way wealthy men achieved, well-educated, appropriately philanthropic. His private profile, the one she'd found by accident while researching lodging for a shoot in Costa Rica, was more interesting. He owned 3 of her prints, purchased under a pseudonym through a gallery in Portland. The Siberian Tiger series she'd shot 2 years ago, she'd never mentioned it to Vanessa. What would be the point? Her sister had called those same prints overpriced Instagram photos when Maya had shown them to her. Maya pulled up the wedding details on her device. 3 days away. Boston. The ceremony was being held at the Ashford estate in Cape Cod, with the reception broadcast live to premium subscribers. Vanessa had sent her the information months ago, back when Maya was still invited. She'd already booked her flight, planning to visit her friend Sophie while she was in town. The flight was still booked. And she had nowhere else to be. Maya stood and began packing. Not the dress she'd planned to wear to the wedding, that could stay folded in her drawer. She packed her usual travel clothes, her camera equipment, and a small leather-bound album she'd spent 6 months creating, a restoration of Chin family photos going back 3 generations. Every image carefully scanned, color-corrected, printed on archival paper. She'd planned to give it to Vanessa as a wedding gift. A reminder that they came from somewhere real, before social capital scores and digital curation, when family meant something more than strategic alliance. She sealed the package and set it aside. Maybe she'd still give it to her. Maybe not. The flight to Boston took 3 hours in the Hyperloop. Maya spent it editing photos, her neural interface projecting the images only she could see. A family across the aisle kept glancing at her, the mother's expression flickering between curiosity and disdain. Maya knew what she saw: a woman in worn clothes, no visible luxury tech, no status markers. Her wrist device was 3 generations old. Her boots were actual leather, not lab-grown. She probably looked like she'd wandered off a heritage farm. Sophie met her at South Station, pulling her into a fierce hug. "Your sister is an idiot." "She's my sister." "She's an idiot who happens to be your sister." "There's a difference." Sophie grabbed one of Maya's bags. "Come on. I have wine and rage. We're going to need both." Sophie's apartment was in the medical district, small but comfortable, full of actual books and plants that required manual watering. She poured 2 glasses of wine before Maya had even set down her bags. "So what's the plan? Storm the wedding? Make a scene? I can fake a medical emergency if you want." "I'm very convincing." Maya smiled despite herself. "No plan. I'm just here to visit you. The wedding has nothing to do with me." "Bullshit. You packed that album. I can see it in your bag." "Force of habit." Sophie studied her for a long moment. "You should post about the award. Tag your whole family. Let them choke on it." "That's not who I am." "I know. That's why you're better than all of them put together." Sophie raised her glass. To being underestimated, Maya clinked glasses but didn't drink. Through Sophie's window, she could see the illuminated skyline of New Boston, every building wrapped in projection advertising, social media feeds crawling up the sides like digital ivy. Somewhere out in Cape Cod, her sister was probably doing a final fitting, checking her engagement metrics, making sure every detail of tomorrow's rehearsal dinner was optimized for maximum impact. Maya had chosen a different kind of life. She'd chosen truth over performance, substance over signal. The barista recognized her. Not from her low SC score, but from her work. "You're Maya Chen." He was young, maybe 22, with ink under his skin that shifted patterns when he moved. Expensive modification. "I have your Wolf series as my screensaver." The alpha female with her pack in Yellowstone. "Thank you. Are you in town for work, family thing?" He nodded knowingly, as if family things were universally painful. "Well, welcome to Boston. Coffee's on me." She took her espresso to a corner table and pulled up the news feeds on her device. The announcement of her award was still trending. Someone had created a compilation of her best shots, set to music, already viewed 8 million times. Her follower count was climbing exponentially. Messages poured in faster than she could read them, interview requests, speaking invitations, strangers telling her that her work had changed their lives. Her device buzzed with an incoming call from a number she didn't recognize. She almost declined, but something made her answer. A man's face appeared, handsome and tired. "Ms. Chen? This is Derek Ashford. I hope you don't mind me calling. Your mother gave me your contact." Maya's stomach tightened. "Mr. Ashford, Derek, please. I wanted to apologize. What Vanessa did, uninviting you, was wrong. I told her so. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of this." He looked genuinely uncomfortable. Maya studied his face, seeing traces of the man who'd bought her photographs under a fake name. "It's her wedding. She gets to invite who she wants. It's our wedding. And I want you there. I've been trying to buy your Siberian Tiger series for 8 months. Your agent keeps telling me the licensing rights are committed." So he knew. Of course he knew. She wondered if Vanessa did. "They're committed to a conservation foundation. The fees fund protection programs, that's." He paused, and she saw something shift in his expression. "Respect, maybe. That's exactly what I'd expect from you. Look, I know this is awkward. But my brother Liam is gathering some people tonight after the rehearsal dinner. Nothing formal. Friends, family who aren't completely insufferable. I'd really like you to come. Does Vanessa know you're calling?" Vanessa is busy optimizing seating arrangements for social synergy. She won't even notice. Maya found herself smiling. "I'll think about it." After Derek disconnected, Sophie appeared with a fresh cup of coffee. "Who was that? You look confused." "The groom. He invited me to a party tonight." "The groom your sister is marrying invited you to a party the night before their wedding, after she specifically uninvited you from said wedding?" Sophie grinned. "This family drama is getting delicious. You're going, obviously." "I don't know, Maya. You spent 3 months in Svalbard photographing foxes. You can handle a party." That evening, Maya stood in front of Sophie's mirror, second-guessing everything. She'd chosen her favorite vintage dress, flowing fabric with a floral pattern, the kind of thing that looked bohemian in a deliberate way. Her leather jacket was worn soft, her boots scuffed from actual miles. She'd braided her hair loosely and skipped makeup except for a touch of color on her lips. She looked exactly like herself. Which meant she looked exactly wrong for an Ashford family gathering. Her device buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "This is Liam Ashford. Derek gave me your contact. Some of us are gathering in the garden lounge around 11. Nothing fancy. Just people who know how to have an actual conversation. Hope you'll come." Attached was a photo of the space, glass and stone, surrounded by gardens, warm light spilling onto a terrace. It looked intimate. Real. Sophie appeared behind her. "Stop overthinking. You're magnificent. Go show them what they've been missing." The ride to Cape Cod took 40 minutes in an autocab. Maya watched the city give way to suburbs, then to the kind of old-money landscape where properties were measured in acres instead of square feet. The Ashford estate announced itself with understated elegance: no gates, no visible security, just a long drive through sculpted grounds that probably cost more to maintain than Maya's annual income. She nearly told the cab to turn around 3 times. The main house was dark when she arrived just before 11, but she could see lights and hear voices from somewhere beyond it. She followed a stone path through gardens that smelled like jasmine and found the garden lounge exactly where Liam's photo had shown it. Through the glass walls, she could see people laughing, drinks in hand, the kind of gathering that looked genuinely relaxed. She hesitated at the entrance, her heart hammering, then a voice behind her, "You came." She turned. The man standing there was nothing like his brother. Where Derek was polished and composed, this man looked deliberately undone. Tall, dark hair that needed cutting. Hazel eyes that looked genuinely amused. He wore jeans and a button-down with the sleeves rolled up, no visible tech except a basic wrist device. He could have been anyone, Liam Ashford, he said, offering his hand. And you're the woman who photographed snow leopards at 14,000 feet without dying. Which makes you officially the most interesting person who'll be here tonight. His handshake was warm and firm. Maya felt something flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with nervousness. "I almost didn't come, I'm really glad you did." He gestured toward the lounge. "Come on. Let me introduce you to people who'll actually appreciate you." He offered his arm. After a moment, she took it. As they walked into the warm light and laughter, Maya didn't know that in the next hour, everything would change. She didn't know that her sister was about to discover exactly what she'd been dismissing for the past decade. She didn't know that the man beside her had been following her work for 2 years, waiting for a chance to meet the person behind the photographs. All she knew was that his arm was solid under her hand, and when he looked at her, he saw something more than her SC score. He saw her. The garden lounge felt like stepping into a different atmosphere entirely. Maya crossed the threshold and the change was immediate, warm light softened by fabric panels. The scent of something herbal burning in discreet corners, music that was actual instruments instead of algorithmic composition. 30 or so people scattered across low couches and clusters of chairs, their body language loose in a way that spoke of genuine relaxation rather than performed casualness. These weren't the people from the rehearsal dinner. No one here was checking their SC scores every 30 seconds or angling for the perfect candid shot. Liam's hand rested lightly at the small of her back as he guided her inside. She felt the warmth of it through her jacket, aware of how close he stood without crowding her. Heads turned as they entered, but the curiosity felt different from the assessment she usually received. These people looked interested rather than calculating. "Everyone," Liam said, his voice carrying easily across the space, "this is Maya Chen. Photographer, adventurer, and the only person here tonight who's actually done something brave with their life." A few people laughed. Maya felt heat climb her neck, but Liam's hand steadied her. "What did she photograph?" Someone called from near the fireplace. "Wildlife," Maya said, keeping her voice level. "Mostly endangered species." A woman in her early 30s detached herself from a conversation and approached, her expression openly curious. She wore actual jeans, not the designer denim that cost more than Maya's rent, and her wrist device was an older model. "Like what specifically?" "Snow leopards in the Himalayas. Siberian tigers in Russia. Arctic foxes in Svalbard." Maya ticked them off automatically, the way she always did when people asked. She never mentioned the awards or exhibitions first. Let them discover that if they cared enough to look. The woman's eyes widened. "Wait. Are you the Maya Chen? You won Wildlife Photographer of the Year." The room didn't go silent exactly, but the quality of attention shifted. Conversations paused. Maya felt the familiar discomfort of being seen, really seen, after years of deliberate invisibility. "I did. Last month." She couldn't make herself add anything else. The praise always felt performative. Like she was supposed to perform gratitude for recognition she'd never sought. Suddenly people materialized around her. Devices appeared in hands, fingers swiping rapidly through search results. One of Derek's cousins, she recognized the family resemblance in his bone structure, nearly dropped his drink. "Your exhibition is at the Natural History Museum. I tried to get tickets. It's sold out for 6 months, the Real Museum," someone else said. "Not the virtual tour. Actual physical space." Maya nodded, overwhelmed by the sudden attention. This was exactly what she'd been trying to avoid by keeping the award quiet. Not because she wasn't proud of the work, but because being known changed how people saw you. They stopped seeing the person and started seeing the achievement, the social capital, the potential value of association. Liam's hand moved from her back to her elbow, gentle pressure guiding her away from the growing crowd. In my ecolodge in Costa Rica. Liam handed her a glass of wine that had materialized from somewhere. I bought them 2 years ago. They're the first thing guests see when they arrive, hung in the main lodge where the light hits them at sunrise. People cry looking at them. Something in Maya's chest tightened. Not discomfort, but its opposite. Really? The male leopard. The one looking directly at the camera. Liam's gaze held hers, steady and uncomfortably perceptive. You can see his soul in that shot. How long did it take? 3 months. The memory surfaced with sensory clarity, the thin air that made every breath deliberate, the cold that seeped through every layer, the patience required to wait for moments that might never come. I lived in a tent. Didn't shower for weeks. Nearly died of altitude sickness twice. Liam leaned against the window frame, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something subtle, not the aggressive designer scents most wealthy men wore. See, that's the kind of luxury I respect. Not champagne and caviar. Real experiences. Discomfort in service of truth. You traded every comfort for something most people will never understand. Maya studied him properly for the first time. He was attractive in an unconstructed way, his dark hair slightly too long, his button-down wrinkled at the elbows where he'd rolled the sleeves. His wrist device was basic, possibly even older than hers. Nothing about him screamed wealth except the unconscious ease in his posture, the way people who'd never worried about money moved through the world. You don't seem like the luxury hotel type, she said. I'm not. His smile was self-deprecating. I run the eco-lodges. Small footprint properties in Costa Rica and Thailand. Local partnerships, sustainable tourism, minimal tech integration. My family considers them charity projects. My father thinks I'm wasting my MBA on feel-good initiatives that barely break even, but they matter more than profit margins. Exactly. Liam raised his glass. To disappointing our families, Maya clinked her glass against his, feeling something shift in her chest. The wine was good, complex in a way that suggested actual terroir rather than lab optimization. They talked, and talking to him was effortless in a way that conversation rarely was for her. He asked real questions, not about her follower count or her social capital score, but about the work itself. What drove her to those remote places? How she decided which species to document. Whether she ever got lonely in those extended silences. Always, she admitted. But it's a different kind of lonely than being surrounded by people who don't see you. I know exactly what you mean. 20 minutes passed without Maya noticing. The crowd had given them space, returning to their own conversations. But she was aware of occasional glances. People were still processing her presence, updating their internal databases with this new information about Vanessa Chen's invisible sister. Then Vanessa walked in. Maya saw her sister before Vanessa saw her. Vanessa had changed since the rehearsal dinner into something casually expensive, silk pants and a designer top that probably cost what Maya paid for 3 months of rent. Her hair was perfect despite the late hour, her makeup flawless even at midnight. She scanned the room with the practiced efficiency of someone used to cataloging social situations for optimal positioning. Her eyes landed on Maya and stopped. What are you doing here? Vanessa's voice cut across the ambient noise. Sharp enough that conversations faltered, the room went quiet. All eyes turned toward them. Maya felt the attention like physical pressure, but she kept her voice level. I was invited. By who? Vanessa crossed the space between them, her posture rigid with barely controlled fury. Liam stepped forward, positioning himself slightly between Maya and her sister without being obvious about it. By me. Liam Ashford. Derek's brother. Your sister is a guest of my family. Vanessa's eyes flicked to Liam, reassessing. Maya watched her sister's social calculations play across her face, how to handle this without creating a scene that might damage her carefully curated image. Maya, this is inappropriate. You weren't on the guest list, neither was half the people here, Liam said easily. It's a casual gathering, not a state dinner. Your sister was alone in town. I thought she might enjoy meeting some interesting people. You're doing this to embarrass me. Vanessa directed this at Maya, her voice tight with accusation. Showing up after I specifically, Vanessa, maybe we should. Derek appeared behind her, looking uncomfortable in a way that suggested he'd been watching this unfold from across the room. He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes locked on Maya and something changed in his expression. Recognition, maybe. Or realization. Maya Chen, he said slowly. You're the Maya Chen. Maya felt the room's attention sharpen. Have we met? Derek pulled out his device, fingers moving rapidly across the interface. I've been trying to buy your Siberian Tiger series for 8 months. Your agent kept saying the licensing rights were committed to a foundation. The room erupted in whispers. Maya saw devices appearing in hands, people searching, information spreading through the social network like wildfire. What are you talking about? Vanessa looked between Derek and Maya, confusion cracking her composure. Derek held up his device, his voice gaining strength. Your sister is one of the most celebrated wildlife photographers in the world. She won Wildlife Photographer of the Year last month. The prize is £15,000. The exhibition is at the Natural History Museum in London. Liam interrupted, pulling up his own device with Maya's Wikipedia page displayed. Sold out for 6 months. Oh, and she has a National Geographic contract. 3 years, high 6 figures. The information spread like a virus. Maya watched it happen, people pulling up search results, follower counts, exhibition details. Someone gasped at the discovery of her Instagram following. Another found the Time magazine article. A third located the BBC interview announcement. Aunt Patricia materialized in the doorway behind Vanessa, her face pale under expensive cosmetic work. She's famous? One of Derek's cousins, a hedge fund manager Maya vaguely recognized from earlier, pulled up an article. Her exhibition raised $2.3 million for endangered species conservation. That's serious money. Real impact. Uncle Richard pushed forward, his device held out like evidence. National Geographic is calling her the Ansel Adams of wildlife photography. Maya, is this true? Maya felt cornered by the sudden attention, by the way everyone was looking at her differently now. Not as Vanessa's disappointing sister, but as someone with quantifiable value. I take pictures of animals, she said quietly. That's all. She doesn't just take pictures. Liam's voice carried an edge Maya hadn't heard before. Protective. Fierce. She spends months in life-threatening conditions to document species on the brink of extinction. She chooses discomfort and danger over safety and recognition. She's contributed more to the world in 5 years than most of us will in our entire lives. The way he defended her, unprompted and absolute, sent something electric down Maya's spine. She looked at him and found him looking back, his expression daring her to contradict him. Vanessa's composure cracked visibly. You never told us. You let us think you were struggling. That you couldn't. Her voice broke on the last word. Maya felt years of accumulated hurt rise in her throat. I didn't let you think anything. You assumed. You saw the Jeep and assumed failure. You saw thrift store clothes and assumed poverty. You never once asked about my work. You never asked if I was happy. You just decided I was an embarrassment and acted accordingly. That's not fair. You uninvited me from your wedding, Vanessa. Maya's voice stayed level but something raw entered it. Your wedding. Because I didn't fit your aesthetic. You told me to grow up, to face reality. This is my reality. I built it myself without family money or connections or a single piece of advice from anyone who thought I was wasting my life. And I'm proud of it. The silence that followed felt absolute. Even Aunt Patricia had nothing to say. Maya watched her uncle's face cycle through expressions: shock, embarrassment, recalculation. She could see him updating his internal assessment of her value, and the transparency of it made her stomach turn. Derek looked at Vanessa with disappointment naked on his face. You uninvited your own sister because she dresses differently than your friends? You don't understand. Vanessa's voice came out desperate, defensive. She never cared about family expectations. She just left. Traveled the world while I worked 80-hour weeks to build a career that meant something. She made everything look so easy, so carefree, while her voice broke. For the first time, Maya saw past her sister's anger to what lay beneath it. Not contempt. Jealousy. Vanessa wasn't angry at Maya's choices. She was jealous of her freedom to make them. The tension in the room was suffocating. Maya felt it pressing against her skin, making her want to flee back to Sophie's apartment, back to anonymity, back to a world where her value wasn't up for public debate. Then Liam turned to her with a smile that was pure mischief. So, fearless photographer. What are you doing tomorrow night? Maya blinked at the non sequitur. What? There's a taco truck in South Boston. Best El Pastor in the Western Hemisphere, possibly the known universe. And I know a rooftop where you can watch the sunset over the harbor without a single augmented reality filter ruining the view. He said it casually, but his eyes held hers with unmistakable intent. I'm thinking we skip the wedding reception. Eat tacos. Talk about things that actually matter. What do you say? The room gasped. Audibly gasped. You didn't skip an Ashford wedding. It wasn't done. Maya felt a smile form despite everything. Are you seriously asking me on a date the night before your brother's wedding? I'm asking you on a date instead of the reception. Liam shrugged, the gesture deliberately careless. I'll do the ceremony. Family duty and all that. But after? He let the sentence hang. I'd rather spend time with someone who's actually interesting. Someone who knows the difference between luxury and value. Liam, you can't skip my reception. Derek said it like he was trying not to laugh. Liam looked at his brother with absolute seriousness. Your fiancée uninvited her own sister because she was embarrassed by her authenticity. I'm uninviting myself from your reception because I'm embarrassed by both of you. Call it even. Maya looked at him properly, really looked. He was gorgeous in an unconstructed way, but more than that, he saw her. Not her awards or her social capital score or her potential value as a connection. He saw her. She stepped closer, lowering her voice to something that felt intimate despite their audience. You don't even know me. What if I'm boring? Liam moved into her space, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. You slept at 14,000 feet to photograph animals most people will only see on screens. You chose a sleeping bag over a mansion and meaning over money. You're a lot of things, Maya-chan, but boring isn't one of them. What if I say no? His smile was slow and devastating. Then I'll show up at your hotel tomorrow with those tacos anyway. And flowers. And probably a terrible poem I write on the flight to wherever you're going next. I'm persistent when I find something rare. The air between them felt charged, electric. Maya was aware of everyone watching but couldn't bring herself to care. Someone whispered something about getting a room. She ignored it. Pick me up at 7, she said. It's a date. Derek stepped forward, his expression genuinely apologetic. Maya, I'd be honored if you'd come to the wedding tomorrow. Actually, he looked at Vanessa with clear expectation. We'd be honored. Vanessa? Cornered by social pressure and her own crumbling composure, nodded stiffly. Of course. You should come. Maya met her sister's eyes and saw desperation there. Fear of judgment, of being seen as petty and small. I'll think about it, she said with quiet dignity. She turned to leave. Liam walked with her, his hand finding the small of her back again. Outside, the garden was cool and fragrant, jasmine heavy in the air. Liam stopped her at the gate, his hand on her elbow turning her to face him. For what it's worth, your sister's an idiot, he said. And you're extraordinary. You don't have to. He stepped closer, cutting her off not with words but with proximity. I'm not being polite. I've been following your work for 2 years. When I saw the Snow Leopard series, I felt something I'd never felt looking at art before. Like I was seeing something true. Something wild and free and completely uncompromised. Maya's breath caught. She was aware of his hand still on her elbow, of the inches between them that felt both too much and not enough. And then you walked in tonight, he continued, his voice dropping lower, and you were exactly what I imagined. No pretense. No performance. Just real, Liam, his name came out husky. I know this is fast. I know we just met. But I haven't felt this awake in years. So yes, I want to take you for tacos. And I want to hear every story you have. And maybe, if you'll let me, I want to be the person who reminds you that you don't need anyone's permission to be exactly who you are. Maya felt her walls crumbling, the careful distance she maintained between herself and connection eroding with every word. What if I'm only in town for 2 more days? Liam reached up, brushing a strand of hair back from her face. His fingers grazed her cheek and she shivered. Then we make them count. He didn't kiss her. The almost kiss was more charged than any actual kiss could have been. They stood there, inches apart, the tension unbearable and perfect and entirely mutual. 7 o'clock, Maya whispered, I'll be there at 6:59. She walked away, her heart hammering against her ribs. When she looked back from the garden path, he was still standing there watching her, that devastating smile on his face. Back at Sophie's apartment, Maya couldn't sleep. Her device wouldn't stop buzzing, messages from her agent, interview requests, congratulations from people she hadn't spoken to in years. And one text from her mother, why didn't you tell us about the award? We're so proud. Please come to the wedding. Love, Mom. Maya stared at it for a long time. The words felt hollow now, pride contingent on achievement rather than person. But underneath her cynicism, something else stirred. Hope, maybe. Or the possibility of healing. She texted Sophie, who was working a night shift, I think I just met someone. The response came immediately, details. Now, Maya smiled, typing, tomorrow. First I need to figure out what to wear to a wedding I wasn't invited to. She set down her device and pulled up the photos from Svalbard, scrolling through images of foxes against blue ice. In 2 days she'd leave Boston. Return to her real life of airports and tents and the patient work of bearing witness. But something had shifted tonight. Not just her family's perception of her, though that would have consequences she couldn't yet predict. Something deeper. The possibility that she didn't have to choose between her work and connection. That maybe, just maybe, there were people who could see her authentic self and want her anyway. She thought about Liam's hand on her back, the way he'd defended her without being asked, the almost kiss that still made her skin feel electric. Tomorrow night. Tacos and truth and whatever came after. For the first time in years, Maya Chen let herself want something more than the next perfect shot. She let herself want to be seen. Maya woke to her device vibrating so insistently it had worked its way across Sophie's nightstand. 37 missed calls. Her agent. Her mother. Numbers she didn't recognize. The notification overlay showed her social capital score climbing in real time, too. 3 to 4.1 to 5.8. Still rising, she sat up, her body still carrying the charge from last night, from Liam's almost kiss and the way he'd looked at her like she was the only real thing in a room full of holograms. Her device finally stopped vibrating long enough for her to see the headline trending across 3 news aggregators. National Geographic signs Wildlife Photographer of the Year to exclusive contract. Below it, her photo, one she'd taken for her passport 3 years ago, badly lit and serious. The BBC interview had gone live early. Someone had leaked the Nat Geo deal. Her Wikipedia page was being edited in real time by strangers who suddenly cared about her educational background and equipment preferences. Maya silenced every notification and stood. Through Sophie's window, morning light turned the city's projection surfaces pale and ghostly. In 6 hours, Vanessa would marry Derek Ashford in front of 300 guests and a live broadcast audience. Maya had been uninvited, then publicly re-invited in front of witnesses who would remember every detail. She could stay away. Spend the day with Sophie, avoid the whole performative ritual, let Vanessa have her perfect day without the complication of Maya's sudden visibility. But something had shifted last night. Not just in how her family saw her, but in how Maya thought about the forest green silk she'd seen in the window. Elegant but understated, the kind of dress that moved like water and didn't announce its price tag. Something that feels like me. Just better. 20 minutes later, she stood in front of a mirror wearing that green silk dress. It skimmed her body without clinging, the color making her skin look luminous and her dark hair richer. The neckline was modest, the hem hit just below her knee, and when she moved, the fabric moved with her like it had been waiting for her specifically. "It's perfect," the saleswoman said. "You look like yourself, only more so." Maya studied her reflection. The dress was expensive, she could have lived for 2 months on what it cost. But she could afford it now, and more importantly, she wanted it. Not to impress Vanessa or her family or the 300 wedding guests. She wanted to feel beautiful on her own terms, in a way that honored both who she'd been and who she was becoming. She bought the dress, and minimal jewelry to go with it, nothing that would compete with her grandmother's silver fox necklace, which she'd worn through 16 countries and never taken off. At the Ashford estate, Vanessa Chen sat in front of a mirror while a makeup artist worked on her face with tools that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her device kept buzzing with updates, guest arrivals, catering confirmations, viewer pre-registration numbers for the broadcast. Everything was perfect. Everything was optimized. Everything felt completely wrong. "Sweetie, what's wrong?" Linda appeared in the doorway, already dressed for the ceremony in pale blue silk. "You're getting married in 3 hours, Vanessa's carefully maintained composure cracked. The makeup artist stepped back, recognizing a moment that required privacy. Linda closed the door behind her and sat on the edge of the settee. "I ruined everything," Vanessa said, her voice breaking. "Maya's famous, Mom. Actually famous. And I told her she was an embarrassment." "How could I not know?" Linda was quiet for a moment, her own reflection visible in the mirror beside her daughter's. "Because you never asked." "Neither did I. We were so busy judging her choices that we never saw what she was building." "She probably hates me, she's your sister." "She doesn't hate you." Linda reached out, taking Vanessa's hand. "But you need to make this right. Not for the guests or the cameras or your social capital score. For you. Because you can't build a marriage on a foundation of regret." Vanessa looked at her mother, really looked, and saw her own fear reflected back. Fear of being seen as less than. Fear of choosing wrong. Fear of living a life that looked perfect but felt empty. "I don't know how to fix this." "Start with the truth. Tell her you're sorry. Mean it." Linda squeezed her hand. "And maybe ask yourself why you were so threatened by her authenticity in the first place." The ceremony was set up on the eastern lawn, where morning light would hit the ocean just right for the cameras. 300 chairs in perfect rows, an altar wrapped in flowers that had been flown in from 3 continents, a string quartet warming up with music that had been algorithmically composed for optimal emotional response. Maya arrived 10 minutes before start time, slipping into a seat in the back row where she could observe without being obvious. She looked breathtaking and she knew it. The green silk moved like living water, her grandmother's fox necklace caught the light, her hair fell loose down her back in waves she'd let air dry. She wore minimal makeup, just enough to highlight rather than transform. Several guests turned to look as she sat down, their expressions cycling through recognition and reassessment. Up front, standing with Derek and the other groomsmen, Liam spotted her. His face transformed, that devastating smile, unguarded and real. He winked. Maya felt heat climb her neck and couldn't stop her answering smile. The ceremony began with traditional elegance. Vanessa looked stunning in a dress that had been custom designed and probably cost more than a car. Derek looked genuinely happy, his usual composed expression softening when his bride appeared. When they exchanged vows, Maya heard real emotion in their voices. Whatever else was complicated between them, the love was authentic. But during the recessional, as Vanessa and Derek walked back down the aisle, Vanessa stopped when she reached Maya's row. The entire processional halted behind her. 300 guests held their breath. The cameras kept rolling. "I'm sorry," Vanessa said, her voice carrying across the sudden silence. Tears tracked through her makeup. "I'm so sorry. You deserved better from me." Maya stood, her throat tight. Vanessa, you were brave enough to be yourself. I was too scared. Vanessa's voice broke. I'm sorry I made you feel small for being big. They embraced in front of everyone, messy and real and completely unscripted. The guests applauded, the sound rolling across the lawn like weather. Maya held her sister and felt years of hurt begin to transform into something that might eventually become forgiveness. The reception filled the Ashford ballroom with controlled elegance, crystal and white flowers and lighting designed to make everyone look their best. Maya found herself seated with Derek's younger cousins, artists and entrepreneurs who asked real questions about her work rather than her social capital score. They wanted to know about the Colden Svalbard, the patience required for wildlife photography, whether she'd ever been truly afraid. Constantly, she admitted. Fear is part of it. But so is the moment when an animal looks at you and you both acknowledge each other's existence. That's worth any amount of fear. Then Derek stood to give his speech. It started traditionally, thanking families, acknowledging love, making the requisite jokes. Then his tone shifted. Before I finish, I want to acknowledge someone special. My new sister-in-law, Maya Chen, is here tonight. He gestured toward her table and Maya felt every eye in the room turn. Many of you may not know that Maya is one of the most accomplished wildlife photographers in the world. She recently won Wildlife Photographer of the Year, the highest honor in her field. The room applauded. Maya's face burned but she kept her expression composed. Maya's work has raised millions for endangered species conservation. She's risked her life to document animals on the brink of extinction. And she's done it all with grace, humility, and a commitment to something bigger than herself. Derek's voice gained strength. So, in honor of Maya and her work, Vanessa and I have decided that in lieu of traditional wedding favors, we're making a donation to Maya's Conservation Foundation. $50,000, in the name of every guest here tonight. The room erupted. Guests stood, applauding. Aunt Patricia was clapping. Uncle Richard was wiping his eyes. Maya sat frozen, overwhelmed by the public acknowledgement, by the validation she'd never sought but couldn't help feeling. Across the room, Liam was beaming with unmistakable pride. The reception shifted into dancing and drinking, conversations fragmenting into smaller clusters. Maya found herself surrounded by people who wanted to talk about her work, her process, her plans. She answered questions patiently, but part of her attention tracked Liam's movement through the room, aware of him even when she couldn't see him. At 7 p.m., as the sun angled toward the horizon and the party showed no signs of slowing, Liam appeared at her elbow. Ready to get out of here? He asked quietly. Maya glanced around. Won't people notice? Definitely. I'm counting on it. He offered his hand. Come on. I promised you tacos and I'm a man of my word. They slipped out together. Hand in hand, and Maya felt the weight of performance fall away with every step toward the exit. Liam's car was old, the kind that required manual driving. He handled it with easy competence, navigating out of Cape Cod and back toward Boston while Maya watched the landscape transform from manicured wealth to urban complexity. They didn't talk much during the drive, but the silence felt comfortable rather than awkward. He took her to a rooftop in South Boston that clearly wasn't public. He had a key, which suggested ownership or at least access. The space was simple: wooden deck, string lights that weren't smart-enabled, a low table where he'd already set up a blanket, wine, and a bag from the promised taco truck. You planned this, Maya said. I'm optimistic. Liam poured wine into actual glasses. Also, I hedged my bets. If you'd said no, I would have eaten these tacos alone while dramatically staring at the sunset. Maya laughed, sitting cross-legged on the blanket. The tacos were still warm, corn tortillas with slow-cooked pork and fresh cilantro. The wine was good, complex and real, not optimized in a lab. The sun painted everything gold as it dropped toward the harbor. Tell me something real, Liam said after they'd eaten, after the sun had turned the water molten. Something you've never told anyone. Maya thought about deflecting, about keeping her walls up. Then she let herself be honest. I almost quit photography 2 years ago. I was broke, exhausted, freezing in Siberia. My family kept asking when I'd get a real job. I was completely alone and I thought, what's the point? Then I saw a tiger. She looked right at me, really looked at me, and I knew. That moment was the point. Bearing witness. Making people see what they're about to lose. Liam was quiet for a long moment. That's the tiger in my lodge. The one with her cub. You have the mother cub print? It's my favorite thing I own. When guests ask about it, I tell them, that's what love looks like. Fierce and protective and completely selfless. He met her eyes. I didn't know you almost quit. I'm glad you didn't. Maya's eyes stung. Your turn. Ask me something real. Why eco lodges? You could run the luxury properties, make more money, make your father proud. Liam leaned back on his hands, watching the last light fade from the sky. Because luxury properties are empty. Beautiful and soulless. The eco lodges are alive. People come to reconnect with themselves, with nature, with something true. They leave different. That's worth more than any profit margin. Your family must think you're crazy. They think I'm wasting my potential. But potential for what? To be rich and miserable? I'd rather be happy and enough. He turned to look at her. Like you. You chose enough over everything. That takes courage most people don't have. The sun dropped below the horizon, leaving them in blue twilight. The city's lights began to emerge, but up here they felt removed from all of it. Just two people on a rooftop. Being honest, I need to tell you something, Liam said, his voice lower now. And I know it's insane because we just met, but I don't care. I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to meet someone who gets it. Who understands that life isn't about what you own, it's about what you give. What you create. Who you love. Maya's breath caught. Liam, I know you're leaving. I know you have a life that takes you everywhere. But I want in. However that looks. Even if it's just texts from the Himalayas and stolen weekends when you're stateside. I want to know you, Maya. Really know you. What if I'm too much? Too nomadic, too independent, too. He moved closer, cupping her face in both hands. What if you're exactly right? He kissed her. It was soft at first, questioning, giving her space to pull away. But Maya leaned in instead, her hands finding his shoulders, then his hair. The kiss deepened. Became desperate, full of everything they'd been holding back. When they broke apart, they were both breathless. I have to leave for Tanzania in 2 weeks, Maya said against his mouth, so I have 2 weeks to convince you to let me come with you. He kissed her again, slower this time. You'd leave your lodges? I have managers. And I've always wanted to see Tanzania. Especially with the world's best wildlife photographer as my guide. They stayed on that rooftop until the stars came out, talking and kissing and planning impossible things. Maya felt something in her chest crack open, not breaking, but expanding. Making room for this. For him. For the possibility that she could have both her work and this connection. Over the next few days, the Chin family underwent a quiet transformation. Vanessa invited Maya for coffee at a place that still used manual espresso machines. They sat across from each other, both nervous, both carrying years of accumulated hurt. I built my entire life around others' expectations, Vanessa said finally. Law school because Dad wanted it. Corporate law because it paid well. This wedding because, she gestured vaguely. Because it looked right. And I'm only now realizing how unhappy I've been. You don't have to be, Maya said quietly. It's not too late to choose differently. How did you do it? How did you just walk away from all of it? I didn't walk away. I walked toward something. There's a difference. Maya wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. And it wasn't easy. I've been scared and broke and lonely. But I've also been more alive than I ever was trying to meet expectations. Vanessa nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry I made you feel like your life wasn't valid. Like you weren't enough. I'm sorry I judged yours. Maya reached across the table, taking her sister's hand. We don't have to choose the same things to respect each other's choices. Linda came to Sophie's apartment that afternoon, asking to see Maya's work. They spent 3 hours going through her portfolio on Maya's laptop, Linda crying when she saw the tiger cub image. This is love, Linda said, her voice breaking. You captured love, that's all I've ever tried to do, Maya said. Show people what love looks like when it's not performative. When it's just survival and protection and fierce loyalty. I'm sorry I never saw it before. Linda pulled her daughter into a hug. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to be like Vanessa to be worthy. Aunt Patricia cornered Maya at the post-wedding brunch, her expression uncharacteristically humble. I owe you an apology. I was wrong about you. About everything. I let social capital and appearances blind me to what actually matters. Uncle Richard tried to offer investment money for Maya's foundation. She declined gently. I appreciate it, but I'm funding this myself. It means more that way. But if you want to help, talk about conservation with your friends. Use your platform for something that matters. 6 months later, Maya's Instagram showed a different kind of life. Photos from Tanzania, Iceland, Patagonia, but now some shots included 2 people instead of 1. Maya and Liam muddy and laughing after tracking wolves. Setting up camp in the Arctic. Teaching guests at his eco lodge how to see what they were looking at instead of just photographing it. They'd created ecotourism photography retreats. Guests stayed at Liam's sustainable properties and learned from Maya while supporting conservation. Their joint account, Wild and Wandering, had 1.2 million followers who cared more about authentic experience than curated performance. They split time between fieldwork and his lodges, between her projects and their shared vision. It was unconventional and sometimes difficult and absolutely right. Christmas brought them back to Boston, to Linda's house where the Chen family gathered. The atmosphere felt different, warmer, more genuine. Aunt Patricia asked about Maya's next project with real interest rather than performative politeness. Uncle Richard showed his friends Maya's photos on his device, pride evident in his voice. Vanessa and Maya sat together looking at images, laughing at shared memories. Building something new from the rubble of what had been broken, Derek and Vanessa announced they were expecting. The family erupted in celebration, genuine and joyful. During dessert, Liam stood up. Maya's heart started racing before he'd said a word. I want to thank Linda for hosting. And I want to say something to Maya. Liam, what are you? Maya started. He pulled a small box from his pocket, and the room went silent. I know we said we'd keep things open, flexible, see where it goes. But here's what I know. I've spent 6 months watching you work. You're brilliant, fierce, uncompromising, and kind. You make me want to be braver. Better. More myself. He knelt beside her chair. Maya felt tears already starting. I'm not asking you to change. I'm not asking you to settle down or stop traveling or be anything other than exactly who you are. I'm asking if I can be the person who gets to travel beside you. To build this wild, messy, beautiful life with you. Will you marry me? Maya looked at him, this man who'd seen her before anyone else did, who'd chosen her authenticity over everyone's performance. You want to marry someone who lives in a tent half the year. I want to marry someone who taught me what really matters. Someone who chooses purpose over comfort. Someone who sees the world's beauty and fights to protect it. He smiled. So yes. I want to marry the woman who lives in tents. Especially her. Yes, Maya said, her voice breaking. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He kissed her as the family erupted in cheers. When they broke apart, Maya saw her mother crying happy tears, Vanessa beaming, even Aunt Patricia smiling with what looked like genuine joy. A year later, Maya stood on a beach in Costa Rica, wearing a simple dress and her grandmother's fox necklace, marrying Liam in a ceremony that was small and real and completely theirs. No broadcast cameras. No social capital optimization. Just people who mattered, celebrating love that had chosen authenticity over performance. Her social capital score had stabilized at 8.2, high enough to matter, low enough that she didn't have to perform. Her work continued to win awards and raise money for conservation. But more importantly, she'd learned that visibility and authenticity didn't have to be mutually exclusive. She could be seen and still be herself. Vanessa stood beside her as maid of honor, 7 months pregnant and genuinely happy. They'd both learned that there were different ways to build a life, and neither was wrong. Just different, As Maya kissed her husband under palm trees, surrounded by people she loved, she thought about that tiger in Siberia. The one who'd looked at her and reminded her why she did this work. To bear witness. To show people what love looked like when it was fierce and protective and completely real. She'd thought she was documenting animals, but really she'd been documenting truth. And in learning to see it in them, she'd learned to see it in herself. To choose it. To build a life around it, to marry a man who understood that the most valuable things couldn't be measured by algorithms or quantified by social capital. That sometimes the bravest thing you could do was choose to be exactly who you were, even when the world wanted you to be something else. Maya Chen had learned to be visible without performing. To be successful without compromising. To be loved not despite her choices, but because of them, and that was worth more than any award.